Welcome to First. I'm Mark Eichman along with Shirley Min and Michelle Polston. It's been 4 years since Sandy ripped apart the Jersey Shore, and its impact is still being felt in Delaware.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Preventing cancer is important, but also living a healthy life post-treatment is also important.
And we wrap up our Veterans Coming Home series with a report on a civilian turned soldier who wanted to give back to his community. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
When Hurricane Sandy ripped through the region in 2012, it caused significant damage at Delaware and New Jersey beaches. But it also caused damage further into the Delaware Bay. In this week's First Look, we head to the Delaware Bay shore, where work is underway to better protect fragile habitat from storms like Sandy. It's a warm, sunny September morning here at the Mispillion Harbor near Milford. The harbor connects the Mispillion River to the Delaware Bay and is also a prime spot for horseshoe crabs.
This is a really critical spot for horseshoe crabs, red knots, and also there's birders that come out here and other ecotourism.
But that habitat is threatened by storms, especially nor'easters that overtop this rock wall designed to protect the harbor, but hasn't really been working that well, especially when facing big storms.
Every time there's a coastal storm, a nor'easter, the water actually goes over the rock wall, and every time the water goes over the rock wall, it causes more and more erosion of back beach, which is the specific habitat for the horseshoe crab and red knot, and we've seen increased habitat loss every year in every coastal storm.
So to improve the protection of the harbor and the beach, workers are doubling the height of the rock wall using these giant rocks called R7s.
So what we first do is lay down a filter fabric, and that filter fabric will stop the water from coming through. We lay down a smaller stone, it's called R3. It makes a smooth surface so that when you put the R7 on top of it, you have a locking mechanism so you don't have water coming in and going through.
Once the rocks are in place, more than 4,000 dump trucks will travel down this road, delivering more than 46,000 cubic yards of sand. That extra sand will create a beach on the backside of the rock wall, a beach that could become home for thousands of horseshoe crabs.
And that's going to create over 4 acres of potential habitat for horseshoe crabs, which will spawn and then provide that habitat for red knots and a variety of other shorebirds.
The project is funded with Hurricane Sandy relief money, in part because of the damage that storm did here. And as bad as hurricanes are, nor'easters often cause more damage.
During a nor'easter, we're going to have waves coming from the northeast direction, and currently there is no rock to withstand that force. So every time there's a nor'easter, water's rushing through a breach. There's actually a breach to the north of the rock wall, and we're getting these large waves and large erosion on every nor'easter.
A little further north, more Sandy money will help fund improvements to the Ted Harvey Wildlife Area south of Dover. Originally built to control mosquitoes, this impoundment is a prime spot for waterfowl, drawing hunters and birders alike. But this dike breach has rendered the impoundment unusable.
We're going to be starting that project at the end of September, the very beginning of October. It's 40,000 cubic yards of dirt that is going to be coming out. We're trucking it in, we're placing it down, we're using bulldozers to grade.
Those repairs should be finished by next fall. Both projects are part of the state's Bayshore Initiative, a program to improve the coastal area along the Delaware Bay.
These are the restoration components of the Bayshore Initiative, so once we restore the habitat, we want to be able to allow the future generations and future people to come out and enjoy these habitats.
The construction work on the Mispillion Harbor Wall is moving forward full steam ahead while workers fight the winds and the changing tides. They're also keeping an eye on the tropics while it still is hurricane season. And because the area is a sensitive habitat for horseshoe crabs and a stopover for migrating red knots, the work must be completed no later than April 15th. That's when those species are expected to return. DNREC, though, expects the work to be done by February, which should be well ahead of time.
Well, the clock is ticking. So
sure.
All this work stems from Hurricane Sandy in 2012?
Right. It's just kind of the way it goes to get the grant money, and the state did apply for 2 competitive grants through the Department of the Interior's Hurricane Sandy Coastal Resiliency Program. They were awarded $6.5 million for both of these projects. DENREC's Jeremy Ash, who's the project manager for the habitat restoration, says these projects give the state a good value for the money. They'll be very effective for a relatively small amount of funding.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. And you can find more on this project and other issues affecting the health of our waterways online at newsworks.org/Delaware.
Coming up on First, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but a healthy life after cancer is just as important. And the name Larry Anderson means something in baseball, but check out Larry Anderson, the artist.
First is digital. Find it online at WHYY.org/first. Look for this week's show online. The great thing is you can find past shows there as well. Check it out.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a time set aside to encourage women to get mammograms. A local breast cancer survivor has taken a slightly different approach to battling this disease. She's showing survivors how to live healthier and balanced lives post-treatment. Health and wellness advocate Nicole Surratt doesn't let obstacles stand in her way.
I am a breast cancer thriver, but I have made a decision that I'm going to live life with an exclamation point. Not a period, not a comma. Cancer picked the wrong person.
With that zest for life, Surratt shifted from a career in education to a mission of inspiration.
I am in a position to help people improve the quality of their health.
Recently, Surratt hosted the Kaleidoscope Empowering Survivors Mind, Body, and Spirit Cancer Conference, where participants learned about the benefits of meditation, mindfulness, exercise, nutrition, stress management, and much more.
I am speaking to women all across the country, and what I found is that too many of my survivor sisters don't seem to know that when you finish that last chemo or radiation treatment, you have to continue to take care of yourself to reduce your risk of recurrence.
5 years ago, Surratt learned she had an aggressive form of breast cancer. The diagnosis shocked the health-conscious eater and exercise enthusiast who regularly got mammograms. But she adds mammograms aren't the only preventive methods.
In addition to the screenings and you're doing your self-breast checks, you need to know what's normal for you. And that's how I realized something was wrong. So I woke up one morning and noticed that the breast looked different.
Dr. Whitmer, medical director of the Christiana Care Breast Center at the Helen F. Graham Cancer Center, says the same precautionary measures taken to prevent cancer, barring any genetic risk, are just as beneficial post-breast cancer treatment.
So not smoking reduces your risk of developing a breast cancer. Keeping your weight under control, particularly after menopause, reduces your risk of developing breast cancer. And you can reduce your risk of developing breast cancer by up to 20% by being physically active on a very regular basis.
With surgery and chemo behind her and her energy and vitality back on track, Surratt is making sure others know there is abundant life after cancer.
If I can just say one thing that makes help somebody improve the quality of their health and possibly extend the quantity of their days, then I know that I'm accomplishing my assignment.
Doctors recommend women ages 45 to 54 to get mammograms every year. Women 55 and older can get mammograms every 2 years or can continue yearly screenings.
This weekend wraps up our Veterans Coming Home project at WHYY. You can find our stories online at WHYY.org/veteranscominghome. The goal of the collaborative national project was to show what soldiers were facing after their service, and more importantly, what everyone should know about service going forward. One of our stories focused on a soldier who took the idea of service to heart.
30-year-old Brett Van Sickle has been a staple at Isaac's Garage in Wilmington for 12 years. But this spring, the automotive technician surprised many when he shared his future plans.
In a few days, I leave for Army basic training. It's something I've always wanted to do.
It was an admission that left his boss in disbelief.
It was sort of a shock to me and all our friends, so, it's we'll see how it goes.
The one person who wasn't surprised, his wife, Molly.
He talked about it. This is something he thought about doing outside of high school, but then life gets in the way and things happen. So he decided not to, so he brought it up periodically throughout the years. And so finally, about this time last year, I said to him, if this is something you really want to do, then you do it.
Molly and Brett met as teenagers, fell in love, and started their family. It's the reason why Brett postponed his military aspirations, because he didn't want to leave his young family.
I have 2 children. Andrew, he's 13, and Evan, he's 6 years old. And I like to spend as much time as I can with them, of course. My 13-year-old, he was the reason I couldn't do it earlier in life. I didn't want to leave him at a young age.
But now that his sons are older, he felt they could handle the transition. And Brett knew it was time to make those dreams a reality. And so did Molly.
I was worried that this was something he was going to regret not doing.
While full-time enlistment was his goal when he was younger, the Delaware Army National Guard's flexibility worked better with his current lifestyle.
There's about 1,600 members of the Delaware Army National Guard. The other 2/3 serve typically 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks throughout the year. To be ready to do their job, their military job, in support of the state and the nation.
Sergeant Kyle Passwater says Brett's case isn't as unusual as you'd think.
We take people right now from ages 17 all the way up to 35. We're getting a lot of people that are joining later in life because of some of the benefits that we have.
And those benefits extend to the families of the enlisted.
His family's being very well taken care of while he's gone. There's programs in place to take care of families while they're away, and plus the National Guard, we reach out to the families. It's a family organization, and the family is part of, everything we do.
Having a military liaison to help with the adjustment has been beneficial.
We are very close with another military family, and they have been a savior to me. She's been great, really helpful. She's gone through the same thing. She went through the same thing when her husband deployed. She had 2 young kids.
It also helps when the family receives letters and an occasional phone call from Brett.
We did get a phone call last Friday, which was our first phone call, which was very exciting.
It was nice to just hear his voice, and we just talked, and he told us how it was going. It was going good, he said. He did a lot of training, and yeah, he just can't wait to see us.
Molly says the distance is hard, but thanks to family, friends, and the military, they're making it one day at a time.
All right, so this is our countdown to how many more days till Daddy is home, so cross out today. All right, what do we have left?
32.
32 more days. We started out at 73, so we're getting there, guys.
One thing to note, up to 100% tuition is covered in state universities, depending on which one you pick. And depending on your job, you could also get $50,000 in student loan repayments.
Delaware artist Larry Anderson began drawing as a child. He went to school for engineering, but his drawings and paintings were never far from his heart. His mother's encouragement finally got him to keep painting. Now, he's known as the painter of memories. Here's our first experience.
I'm coined the painter of memories. What I try to do is make people smile with my art. My father ended up being a ceramics teacher in his retirement. My mother was a fashion designer and art teacher. They were a big influence. For toys, my father would bring home a tablet of paper and a pencil, and I'd just sit for hours and lose myself in the day, drawing, mostly automobiles. It's fun to come down to the studio. You're just involved between the painting and the paint, and the painting and the paint. Some of my best prints are of restaurants like the Chuck Wagon, places like Good Memories. I listen to people and I hear their memories. I hear the Wilmington dry goods, people with their mother going down for back to school to get their clothes, or one of the many theaters in town. I enjoy the research, but more than anything, once I have the research done, the drawing. Once you're looking at a blank page and you have a concept in your mind, putting it on paper, you just lose yourself. In honor of my mother begging me to paint all those years, I put a cross, a white cross in the painting, and hide it, encrypt it in the painting in her honor. People actually come up at shows, or there are children that come up and just start looking until they find it. And they say, "There it is, Mommy." I almost have an endless supply in this little 12-mile wide state of cool stuff to paint. I really thrive off of the feeling of other people. It's hard to describe, but when you see people smile, it may not be your memory, but it actually has become my memory, and to share it is really sort of cool.
You can visit Larry at the Hockessin Fall Classic the weekend of October 30th, and you can check out the progress on Larry's latest work through his blog. Go to LarryAnderson.com for more information.
And next week on First, we'll look at the endangered freshwater mussel. It's a big part of the Delaware ecosystem, but there is hope in the future. And we'll talk one-on-one with Wilmington's Democratic mayoral candidate, Mike Przicki.
Steve Tanzer of Delaware Liberal is set for a return appearance as well. That is First for this week. We thank you for watching. For Shirley Min and Nichelle Polston, I'm Mark Eichman. Have a great week.